Hi there, welcome to the new revised Mashvisor podcast. My name is Michael. I'm very excited that you're here. Today I got to have a wonderful conversation with my friend Colin. She's a real estate investor. She's the first person in my sales career back in the day that ever had a successfully flourishing Airbnb business. And she gives a lot of really great advice for first-time investors in the short-term rental world. So enjoy it. She's a lot of fun. And if you like it, we'll bring her back. And I have a lot to talk about, so it'll be a good conversation. All right, have fun. Hi, friend. How are you?
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you for talking with me. I always like talking with you, and I always feel as if I'm stealing you away because you have so much going on at any given time. And then I call and I say, "What'd you say?"
It's a busy day, but you know what? I
It's a
have
busy
time.
day.
I have time for you.
You're kind, and you're always kind, and I appreciate that. For everyone, I'm going to do an introduction, obviously, before this starts. But I'll do a secondary one. This is my friend Colin, everybody at home. She is a very successful real estate investor in the upstate New York, Buffalo area. And in my sales career, she was the very first person to successfully start and run multiple Airbnbs. Because a lot of people try and they get into it and then they struggle. But this lady made it happen. So now that we're starting this podcast, I wanted to get her on here to spread her wisdom, if she would.
Oh, it's so nice of you to have me.
Again, I mean, we would be doing this anyway, so now we're just recording it for people to watch at home. So, so thank you for being here. Would you mind telling everybody at home how you got into Airbnb in the first place?
So I came across it sort of organically, right? I didn't start out by saying I wanted to own, and I'm going to get away from the words Airbnb because that's simply a platform.
Okay,
And I'm going to hereby call them short-term rentals or STRs.
great.
So
Okay,
the difference between an STR and an LTR is, the difference of someone staying in your house for 0 to 28 days and a long-term rental, someone who stays for 30 days or 29 days to
sure,
1 year or beyond, right?
sure.
So traditional rental versus a short-term rental. And I landed sort of in it, not on purpose. So I began by buying houses with the intention to renovate and sell them because the renovation is what I loved most, right? I
Of
really
course.
liked to buy a house that was, in desperate need and then fix it and make it usable and beautiful again. So, and I started by doing that. I bought and sold a few houses. And then I bought a house, and this one didn't sell. I missed the market by about a
Oh
year.
no.
And
Uh-oh.
I didn't know what to do. And I was
Yeah,
like, well, I just put all this work into it, and I didn't want to be a landlord at the time.
yeah,
And I was like, well, I'm going to do a little research because if I don't do something, I'm going to go bankrupt, right?
of course.
So uh, I did I did some market research, and we do live in a high tourist area. And this was being done in other places. Western New York is generally a little bit behind other places. So I
Sure,
thought I would kickstart this here, and it just happened to be very lucrative.
sure.
Um, Not easy, but lucrative.
Never easy. Never easy. It was a flip originally. And
It
then
was
when
a
it
flip.
didn't sell, it became a short-term rental.
Yes, it did.
Did you regret anything that you put into your flip when it became an Airbnb or short-term rental?
So yes, knowing what I know now, had I known that then, I would have done things very differently,
Sure.
right? So, short-term rentals are for the purpose of vacation. They're for the purpose of short term, right? So
Of
in
course.
my usage, I mean, I allow people and families to come in and stay in the house for usually my guests come anywhere from 1 to 4 days.
Great.
And when you're flipping a house, you want to keep things very sort of generic, like what you see around me, this just grayish
I don't know
and
what you mean.
white
I see
kind
a
of
lot of
dull.
happy pictures. That's nice. That's
You
always
wouldn't
good.
have that, Right. You wouldn't have this in a flip. Like
Right.
those photos would be gone. It would just be these grayish walls so that you can then imagine your new space that you're purchasing.
Yeah.
But for a short-term rental, I mean, you're here on vacation. So the space should be fun.
Yeah.
Right? You should, put color in. You should put fun artwork in your short-term rental. You need to make it a little more vacation user friendly specific.
Yeah.
And so I do regret that. So I have since, in that particular house, which is still in operation, have added to it like much more fun pieces and things to make it a little more vacation user friendly, right?
Of course.
Yeah, there's a few things
There
I
were a few
I
things.
wish I would have painted it, orange, right?
Right.
Instead of
Right.
gray.
Right. And see what happens.
But yeah, when I purchased the next property,
Yeah.
I knew that I was going to make that property a short-term rental. So I renovated it to suit, right?
Of course.
I put less cabinetry in the kitchens because people that are coming for 2 days don't need to store all of their, Thanksgiving pots and pans.
Correct.
So I just little things like that. I made sure that the showers were walk-in and they were easily cleanable. And I really played with the space to make it a fun space as opposed to a blank slate to imagine your life in.
Yeah. How long did you have just the first short-term rental? Was it a significant amount of time before you felt comfortable jumping into the second?
No, I moved pretty quickly. So I was already in the investment groove because I was buying properties, for the purpose of selling them, right?
Yeah.
And so when I purchased the very first short-term rental, I think I had it on the market for about 4 months before I decided that it just wasn't working, like the market wasn't hitting.
Sure.
And then I switched it over. But by the next year, I had purchased and begun renovation on the second property.
That's great.
Oh, was it?
That takes a lot of, I don't know the kind way to say it, but that takes a lot of boldness to be able to not only handle one, but it wasn't your original plan, to be able to conquer it, have it be profitable and successful, and then immediately jump into a second. That takes some guts.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It's where eagles dare.
And look at
Not
you.
everyone's
And look at
not
you.
everyone's willing.
Yeah.
And and not everyone should, because it does. It takes a lot of work and effort and energy and money. It takes
Yeah.
a lot of money.
Just in my limited experiences, when I have to change plans like that, I find it very stressful, and I sometimes kind of doubt myself because I have to learn everything the hard way. I would love to hear how you learned about how to do a listing. How did you take photographs? How did you learn who and how to clean your properties? Things like that. How did you come across that knowledge on the fly in that way?
YouTube.
Oh, see, YouTube has everything. I swear.
So that's not my only answer. But
it's a good one. It's an effective
when
one.
when I do something, like I really do it.
Yeah.
So it's my personality. I'm very type A. I'm very, go, go, go. I don't stop. So once I decided this is what had to happen, I also decided that I had to learn everything immediately. So,
Sure.
When I'm in that mode, I don't sleep, I don't eat. All I'm doing is gathering information and figuring out what to do next.
Yeah.
So I knew it was important. So I just did all the market research I could. I spoke to other people that had short-term rentals. I spoke to people in other cities that had short-term rentals.
Yeah.
I figured out what works, what doesn't work. Everything from pricing to cleaning to dishware to supplies.
Yeah.
I made a huge list, wrote everything down on my dry erase board, which I still do.
Do you still
which
do
I
it?
don't recommend.
It works.
It's behind
Whatever.
this computer right now. There's a huge list
Is there really?
of supplies, input, output, guests coming, guests going, how many people, how many turnover days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
lots of just doing it
Everything.
until you feel comfortable that you know things.
Yeah. Do you remember your first guest that stayed in your very first short-term rental?
Yes, I remember them
What was
because
that
they were
like?
horrible.
They were, oh no. Tell me more. What did they do?
My first guest was the worst guest I've
Oh
ever
no. That's not ideal. And then a
had.
normal
Purely
person that's not Colin.
circumstantial.
People at home,
It,
Colin is the kind of person that she does not run. She doesn't have a what is it? A run reflex?
I don't have a
A
flight.
flight? No, she doubles down. And look at her now. I love that because so many people would get their first bad renter and they would skedaddle.
Bad.
That's
They
amazing.
were
I'm
really
sorry. Could
bad.
you tell us about it? I would love
Yeah.
to hear it like a sad story.
Man. They were supposed to be a group of three, right?
Okay.
A husband, a wife, and maybe like a mother-in-law.
Okay.
And I don't remember where they were coming from, but they came from, out of town, so I was comfortable with the booking.
Okay.
Um, and they ended up bringing like all these extra people, which was against my rules, and
Yeah.
like they just really were like horribly messy, even though again it was against my list of your expectations, because you lay
Course.
everything out for everyone. You're like, hey, here are my home expectations
Good.
and here are my rules, right?
Yeah.
And they pretty much just broke all my rules and like made a huge mess, and it was really
no.
gross, and they like cooked food and like left it everywhere. It was just, I was
Awful.
like, oh my god, this is awful. Is it like this all the time?
Right. Is this my future?
And people would be like, oh my god, no, you just got a really bad guest.
Right.
Coincidentally, my very first guest was like a horrible guest.
Lovely.
But 98% of them since have been wonderful.
That's fantastic. How do you determine?
It comes down to your vetting process.
I was going to say, do you have a process to be able to determine before they arrive who's going to be good and who's going to be bad?
Well, I have a very intense vetting process.
Good.
Right? And it has everything to do with, for my property, the thing that makes me most comfortable is having somebody answer my very generic questions.
Uh-huh.
I don't ask anything super personal, but I do want to know, hey, what brings you to town? And, who will you be traveling with? And, what would you like to do while you're here? So just in those answers, I can figure out if somebody is looking to like throw a party, or if they're really truly traveling with their family to, visit Niagara Falls, where we are.
Yeah.
I want the people that are coming with their family to visit Niagara Falls. I am not interested in hosting anybody that is here to throw a birthday party, bachelorette party. I'm not here for, young drinkers. This is not Vegas.
Right. This is not your plan.
This is not what my house is for. My house is for traveling families with, children, and that's who I cater to.
That's great.
So I don't allow anyone that doesn't have any prior reviews from other hosts that say things like, hey, these people came and stayed at my house and they were lovely.
Yeah.
If I read your reviews and anything is a red flag to me, it's a no-go. So I will lose money that way, but I am comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Because in the end, this is my investment, and I am the one who has to put it back together again.
Right. I mean, it's your responsibility. And as surely we may get to, you're very kind to your neighbors and to your in neighborhood. You want to protect them as much as, you want to protect your own property. So I can imagine that all plays into it.
Well, and, honestly, that is a very important key. I mean, you have a lot of these investors out here right now that are trying to gather up as many properties as they can for short-term rental use. Yeah. And it's a misstep, because you're no longer an active part of the community. You're doing like you're trying to do more of a hostile takeover to make money, and you will fail miserably if that's what you intend to do. So
good.
So for me, if I buy a house, the first thing I do is introduce myself to the neighbors. I let them know that, this is the house that I bought. This is what I intend to do with it, and then I learn about them. Like, what are the things that are important to you? Because it's so important to be a good neighbor, whether or not, you live in the house, you rent that house, or you short-term rent that house.
Yeah.
So I reached out to all my neighbors. They, in all of my instances, my neighbors have helped me put the house together, right?
Okay.
So I
That's
have one neighbor
nice.
whose bedroom is very close to, an area of my house. I changed that area of my house so that anyone up late talking would be on the other side of the house so as
That's
not to
kind.
disturb my neighbor.
That's
So
kind.
I pay attention to their needs and they in turn pay attention to mine. If
Yeah.
something's, not right, they call me immediately and I take care of it on their behalf.
Sure.
So being a good neighbor is the most important thing that you could do, right? You don't want
Yeah.
to disrespect your neighborhood, whether or not you live in it. You wouldn't want someone to disrespect the house next door to you.
Of course.
So
How much does the neighbors and the neighborhood play into your uh, buying process? Is that
yeah,
something that you greatly consider because
yes.
you may have issues with certain types
Oh
of
yeah.
properties and those kinds
So
of things?
so I am very conscious of things like crime. Um,
Hmm.
I try to take into consideration, would I stay in this area with my family?
Right.
And if the answer is no, that's probably not the area that I should be investing in.
Right.
Um, I'm trying to cater to a broad spectrum of people, and if it
Yeah.
doesn't feel safe, then yeah, I won't be successful.
Sure.
So, that said, I pay attention to that. I pay attention to, the neighbors in the neighborhood, how well they upkeep their homes, right? The
Hmm.
expectation. Um, for me, though, the houses that I've purchased have all been blighted. Um, I'm a small time investor. I'm not a big investor,
Yeah.
despite what you said in your intro. I am
It's
a
not
small
true.
investor.
It's
Hmm?
not true. It's she's the Mac Daddy of Airbnb hosts in my mind.
So that's not true. I So what I started with was, I started with a reasonably small amount of money.
Yeah.
And the only thing you can buy with a small amount of money is something that needs a lot of work, right? So I would buy these houses that had been sitting there sort of blighted and broken for years, in all instances, actually. Not a single one of the houses that I own had been a beautiful single family home that people were living in. These
Yeah.
were broken windows, they were broken plumbing, broken everything. So generally speaking, when I roll into the neighborhood, the neighbors are happy to see me
Hmm.
because I am going to turn the eyesore into something that looks like it belongs in the neighborhood.
Hey there, it's Michael from Mashvisor. Let's take a quick second from our podcast to talk about our sponsor for this conversation, Mashvisor.com. Mashvisor is a real estate investment software that helps new and experienced investors find properties across the country. And the best part is, all listings come with detailed data analysis to help you make the best choice for you and your investment portfolio. Take advantage of a free 7-day no-obligation trial by following the link in the show notes. That's all. Let's get back to the podcast. Yeah.
So there is that, but there are investors out there trying to buy, you know, ready-made single-family homes. I think that short-term rental use and short-term rental investors do best in areas where you may have some blighted housing. It can help
Sure.
turn a neighborhood around where it might be heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So I don't know how those other investors do it, and I don't know how they're received by their
Yeah.
neighborhoods.
Right.
But I tend to look for the worst house in the nicest neighborhood,
Sure.
and then they're usually happy to have me because I paint and I landscape and I side it and I'm very accessible to you.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
mean
just
that's
the fact
working
that
on
you
it.
would think to give them your phone number, I think is
Oh
very
yeah, first
kind.
thing, right?
Yeah, I think
So
that's a nice first introduction. Probably
yeah, hi,
soothes
here's who
them,
I am. Here's what I
their
want to
concerns.
do. What are your thoughts on that? How do you feel about it? Well, if you have anything you want to talk about, like, please call me.
Yeah.
And it's worked out very well for me. I've had neighbors help me landscape because my one neighbor really likes lilacs, but she doesn't have any. And I was like, well, why don't I plant them and then you can smell them? And
Look,
like
it's a win-win.
it's the little things that really make a big difference.
Yeah.
But you have to be so engaged. A lot of these investors that I'm seeing now, they are not engaged with their neighbors, their neighborhood. They don't care. They would like to make money, and they will fail.
Sure. Sorry.
Which for me, because I'm very engaged.
That's right. And you will grow your business and happily take over their blighted properties in
That's
time.
it. I mean, in so many situations, I have bought houses where people had bought them with the intention to do what I do and were not able to follow through.
Yeah.
So I've bought houses that were, you know, in different stages of renovation where somebody just couldn't hack it.
Yeah.
So it's not for the weak. It's not, you know, it's not easy. And if you're the kind of person that doesn't want to stick your arms up in the raw sewage, this isn't for you.
I think raw sewage is probably my limit, but I appreciate so greatly those who are not intimidated by such things and can stick it out.
If you rely on everyone else to do the work for you, it will take you longer, you will spend more money, you will make less money.
Can I tell my favorite Colin story to the viewers at home, please? One time, you should be. No, you should never be. I should be afraid. The crazy things I do, I should be afraid when people tell stories. No, one time, Colin bought this property, and then it was in rough shape. I mean, it smelled toasty in there. It needed some loving. And so I went back and visited Colin because obviously I enjoy her greatly. And she was just by herself finishing a bathroom, and it looked like a motel. It was like
dirty?
Professional. Well, it was dirty, and then you had put in your own bathtub, and then you were doing the tile, and I walked in and I said, "It's so beautiful," thinking you had a team. It's just sweet Colin in this bathroom by herself for 4 days. She's just minding her business with the radio on.
Just radio on. Listen, the tile's got to get done.
It's got to get done.
Someone's got to do it.
Is that a YouTube thing as well? When you don't know how to do something, you just look it up and figure it out? I love that.
Depending on the complexity of it. Now, there are certain things I will not do because they are extra dangerous, right?
Sure.
I will not do electrical. I am not qualified to do electrical. I am not an electrician. I will hire a qualified electrician, a union qualified electrician.
Kudos.
All day long, right? Because those people have the skills and knowledge needed and necessary to keep my house safe and to keep me safe. I am not a plumber, right? So there are two things that will murder a house: fire and water. So when it comes to building those things, I will hire professionals all day. Now, when it comes to the cosmetics of drywall, painting, tile, vanities, toilets. Me, I'm your girl.
Yeah. I love it. It's so good. And it looks so good when you're done that I'm shocked. Because, of course, I bought my house a couple years ago, and it's taken so long. I'm still knee-deep in the renovation. It's been 2 years. I don't have molding. I don't have all of these things yet. And so I appreciate it when you walk into a space. And she's like, I did that on Wednesday, and it was just done and perfect. It tickled me. Because a lot of
my own house is not completed.
I've been to your house. That's not true.
It's not. My house is in different stages of repair all the time because all the other houses come first because those are in service. And this one, well, I just live in it, so I can deal with, right?
Yeah. So, I can see that.
If things are a mess here, it's not hurting anyone but me. It gets done sort of at my leisure.
And how many projects can one person take on at a time? If you're working on a bathroom all day in one, you don't really want to come home and work on another bathroom. So it's certainly understandable. Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
A lot of our viewers are first-time investors. And something that's it's a popular subject on our blog and on the channel is to talk about how to find value in real estate, but specifically for a short-term rental. When you go into a property, you look for very specific things, and I'm always really interested to hear your take on what you know will bring you value as a short-term rental owner versus a traditional. We kind of already talked about about like bathtubs and those things, but specifically, do you look for how many bedrooms you can get out of it? Do you look for how much of your time it will take to bring it up to your specific standard? Is that a
All of
fair
those
question?
things.
All of those things?
Yeah, no, and the answer is not easy
Mm-hmm.
because it's multifaceted, right?
Yeah.
So the things that I look for might not be the same things that somebody in, say, like Austin, Texas would look
Yeah.
for, right? I'm very central to my location. I'm not national. Like I'm just here. I'm in Western New York, and this is the market that I know and understand.
Of course.
Um, so generally speaking, I look for spaces that would make a good space for a decent sized family,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to sleep 20 people. I'm not comfortable with that amount of people.
Yeah.
But I do want to host a family of, two people with, 2 to 3 children, right? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
my ideal group.
Yeah.
So I make sure that, I always look for 2 bathrooms. And if I don't have 2 bathrooms, I create another bathroom because when you're on vacation, more people need to take a shower because everyone goes out together and everyone comes home together. So everybody is at the end of the night, everybody's, wanting to take a shower at the same time. I
Of
upgrade hot
course.
water tanks for that same purpose, right? You don't want a regular, 30-gallon tank and then 2 people get a shower. And then the next thing you know,
Right.
you got 3 angry kids or angry wives or husbands.
Right.
So there are things, but some of them are sort of central to my area.
Yeah.
I look in a very specific zone in this city
Mm-hmm.
that I feel is A, safe, B, affordable, and C, within good proximity to what people might want to do here,
Mm-hmm.
and also neighborhood.
I see.
It might be very different, say in Texas or Massachusetts or any other
Absolutely.
place. Um, I also have a number in my head. I have to hit my numbers within X amount of years in order to make it worth it for me to do. And
Yeah.
I've studied and pay attention to what my numbers are and how long it will take me to get there. And if those numbers don't make sense, I am out.
That's really. Where did you develop those? Now, I mean, we know at Mashvisor, of course, the platform helps us find those things, but you did it. You're the OG. You did it originally on paper. Like, where? How do you learn those
On a
things?
dry erase board.
On a dry. I forgot. It's on the dry erase.
It's behind me. It's behind you, actually.
I forgot. It's right there. Did you learn that from books? What was your go-to source? Was it just YouTube, the internet?
So I do have a business partner
Mm-hmm.
that also did not understand anything about STRs. I actually had to convince my business partner that this was a good idea.
I see.
And so a lot of the research that I did was simply to let him know this is what we're doing
Mhm.
and here's why. I studied.
I
This is the
have
reason why we're
numbers.
doing this. My dry erase board. I held it up
Yes.
and I was like, I think this can work. And he was like, you're crazy. And
No,
I was
I'm
like,
not
we don't have
crazy.
any other choice, remember? And he was like, crap.
Crap, I already invested.
No,
Oh no.
right. He was like, this is a horrible idea. And I'm like, maybe, but maybe not. So,
That's
and
amazing.
again, that takes me back to it's where eagles dare, right?
Yeah.
So if your only job is to swim and not sink,
Yeah.
you swim.
You're gonna swim. You're gonna float.
You have to swim. The mistakes that people make is that they are unwilling to work as hard as it takes to get it done and to get it done in the amount of time that you need to meet your budget.
Yeah.
My budget is my budget. It's not 5,000
No.
more. It's not $10 more.
Right.
That's my budget. And I will not
I love it.
compromise my budget
You should.
ever.
I'm fascinated by you watch shows on HGTV and they're going over budget and they say, "Oh, I'll give you 75 grand more." And oh, where are you getting 75 grand? What is happening? I love that. It is what it is, and you're going to get
That's
done
not
what you can
reality.
get
Like
done.
those people do yoga for a living.
That's
And that's not, I mean, unless you have like a
That's
trust
true.
fund, and God bless you if you do, but
I need
I don't
one.
have that. All the
No,
dollars I have are dollars that I made.
that's right.
So and I'm very protective of them.
As you should be, as I think most people are, and everybody listening will be as well. I don't think,
Right.
as much as I love some Food Network and I love some HGTV, but I don't, sometimes it's not really applicable to people like us actually doing the work and the projects ourselves. So that's
So
very exciting.
you have to know your budget,
Hmm.
and then you have to crunch your numbers
Yeah.
to reality, right? Okay, so maybe I can't afford to add another bathroom right now. Can this work with one?
Yeah.
You crunch the numbers for 2 bathrooms, you crunch them for 1 bathroom, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't afford it, don't do it.
Yeah.
And that's why when I say I'm a small investor because I refuse to overextend myself.
Good.
So I'm not going to go and buy 7 properties because I know I can't finish 7 properties in the amount of time that it would take for them to be profitable.
Yeah.
I will buy 1 property and I will make it in my time allotment, and I will make it in my budget, and that will free me up to then buy the next one.
And something you said to me once that was very profound is, I asked when we first started talking about you coming on the channel about tours and things, and you're currently working in some of your properties, like as we're talking. So there's nothing wrong with doing what you can now, and then at a later time when you have the money and the resources to take on those projects then, right?
Right. No, I overextending yourself is a terrible idea. You bankrupt your family that way. Don't do that. It's never worth that.
I only have 1 spare bedroom, but you, your husband, your children can come stay there. We'll probably kill each other, but it'll be fun in the meantime.
You're not going to make it.
No, I mean, honestly, I would probably go stay at my parents' house. I was, you could just have it, guys. She's mean. She timed my shower.
Yeah. I said you got to get in and out of there quickly.
Quickly. We need hot water. We're on a schedule.
Right.
No,
but I'm a bit extreme, but it's important to be extreme to make sure that you don't let the whole thing burn to the ground, right? I mean, it unravels very quickly if you're not in control of it.
I feel like it's an extreme business because you have such high turnover of people staying with you at all times. So you kind of have to be a little bit courageous, I think, to jump in the first place and to maintain it. I do read about a lot of people who try Airbnb or short-term rentals, regardless of platform, and they realize it's not for them. So, to stick it out in the long term is pretty exciting for everyone.
It's a job.
Yeah.
So, traditional investment to me was people who bought houses, renovated houses, and sold houses.
Yeah.
Well, the cool part about that is the house is gone out of your life forever. As soon as you sell it, it's gone. My new model is a job.
Yeah.
Right? So every time you put one of these online, you are putting a job online, which means every day I wake up, what needs to be done today? Who needs to be contacted? Who do I talk to? What needs to be cleaned? Do we have the supplies that we need? This is a job. Yeah. Now, the more houses you add, the more jobs you're adding. And if you can't keep up with that, once again, you will fail. Because all it takes is for people to say, yeah, we stayed at this property and it was terrible. There was no toilet paper. There's no hot water. Don't come here. Right? And it's game over. If you have terrible customer service, you're done.
It's done. And it's on the profile and you can't do anything about it. So
once that review
difficult.
Is up there, it lives there forever. And
it's tough.
There's no taking it down.
Yeah. Well, we only have 3 minutes left. I'm so kind of you to even talk to me in the first place. Do you have any last minute tips for first time investors in the short term rental world? It's such a monster that I'm sure you could go on forever.
I could go on forever, but I think the most important things are to not overextend your money or your time. Be realistic with how much time this is going to take and how much money it's going to take you. If you are take your life circumstance into consideration. Do you work full time? Right? Are you're doing this project on the side? How many hours a day can you dedicate to it? Who's going to be there to help you run the logistics? Because your guests don't care if you're at work.
Right.
They're coming, they need assistance, right? Or
they need toilet paper, they need it.
So not overextending your time or your money is the most important thing.
Yeah.
too, don't ever overestimate how hard the job is.
Mm-hmm.
So saying, oh well, it's no big deal, I can do this in my spare time, you're selling yourself short,
Yeah.
and it could be catastrophic for you.
Yeah.
Um, knowing your neighborhood and being realistic about what that means and how you'll be received, and being a good neighbor, also very important.
Yeah.
I've got several more tips, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
Right? Like the important ones, right?
The
The
important
things
ones.
that ruin your life are what I'm
Yeah.
trying to get out, right?
Right. Those are the ones that are most important to me.
Another really big one.
Huh.
If you are investing for short-term rental purposes only, you need to go down to your local city hall, town hall, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and figure out what permitting or ordinances are on the books to make sure that you are legal. There are places in this country, places like South Beach, Miami,
Yeah.
where if you think you're going to turn your apartment into a short-term rental,
Uh-huh.
the next thing you know, you've been fined $1,000 per day for 30 days, right?
That's so that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Oh
right.
my gosh.
So,
That's a
and
lot
if
of
you
money.
just went into this without doing any research as to, what it takes to do this the right way in your area, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt bad.
It's going to be unpleasant.